Hey everybody, this is Fox Logic. Thanks for coming to my channel. In this video, it's going to be kind of a double feature. I'm going to explain how to identify muddled animals, what to do with the muddled animals, and also what to do when you've reached mutation cap. All in one, because I happen to get Kaneka provided this Argent right here, and as we can see, they are super duper duper muddled, and also they have reached their mutation cap on both their matrilineal and patrilineal side. So what do we do about this? You know, it's like what when you get a gift, somebody gives gifts, everybody gives gifts on Arc, and you get an animal that, you know, the breeder is just, I've had enough of this line, I'm gonna try a new one. Here, you can have this, or whatever the reason is. But this is a pretty cool bird. It's just that right now they're pretty muddled. So, on official servers, you would have to take all of these points and figure out what their, or all of these percentages and figure out what their points are. I'm on an unofficial server, so I can just turn my mod on and it will show me where the points are, which is super nice. Again, if you're on an official server, you have to put this thing in a dodo dex to get relatively something close. Again, Dododex is only geared towards Arc Survival Evolved and not Ascended. So you can put the points into Dododex and get kind of a vibe for where it is, and then you're going to have to use math using counting backwards from the actual level. Like, for instance, this one's max level right now is 249, and it has had no points spent so far. So, diving into this, um, first of all, the very first thing that I've done is I have created a spreadsheet, which I will show here, of this bird. What I've done is using from the points that we're seeing on the left, I went ahead and put all those points into the sheet, corresponding with what stat that they were for. And then if we go into the actual bird, I'll go ahead and close that out. Um, So we go into the bird and we get like the actual percentages. So I've taken all of these percentages and I have put them on the sheet. So I've got all the percentages, and then what I've done is I've highlighted or red, highlighted in red the stats that have been mutated. I did find out what their base mutation or pre-mutation stat was. So, but I'll show you how I did that. I did highlight it so that way it's easier for me to see on a glance. Um, but and also to kind of like single those out because those are going to be the problem areas that need some extra attention. But all of this information is from this bird. And then the next thing I did is I went over to the bird standing next to it, which is one of our zero birds. And this one has zeros in everything, as you can see on the left there. I went into its inventory and I looked at all of the percentages. So if I show you here in this green box down here, like all of this that I'm highlighting, this is all the percentages of a base level 1 Argent. So health and stamina and weight, these will always be these percentages no matter what. So what I've done is I needed to figure out how much every time we give an Argent one level, how much of a percentage does that give each stat? For the non-mutated stats, that was fairly easy. What I did is I put all the stats here and I created a little algorithm, and I'll show you how I did that. So I'm going to exit this out, or cancel, delete that. And I use Google Sheets. So how I'm doing this is I'm going to go equal sign sum, and then I'm going to tell it to take this tile here, which is C6. I'm going to minus C13. So we're going to go C6 minus C13. And it's trying to guess it because I've already done this algorithm here already. So now we have this percentage, or this, percentage minus this percentage. And now we can take the remaining percentage and divide it by the 50 points. So if you see right here on the left, we've got the 50. If you're looking on the screen that, actually I'm not even looking at that bird, but not a big deal. We do know it's 50 though, so we're going to go divided by, and the divided is a / divided by a 6. And what that's going to give us is the value for every 1 point. So now we know that when we put 1 health into an Argent, it's going to give us 101.10 percentage per level. And I've done that with all of these individually. So you can look up the stamina has the same type of algorithm. Weight has the same type of algorithm. I have to skip melee because melee is mutated. So I have to figure something else out for that one. I think I just wrote that one in. And then the same algorithm for food. So it was very helpful to have that 0 Argent. The next thing I need to do is I need to figure out what the base was for... Actually, I couldn't even figure out the base. What I ended up doing, I cheated a little bit, and I'll show you how. So I needed to figure out how much 1 point in melee is percentage-wise. Same thing with oxygen, since we have 2 points, or 2 mutations, which equals 4 points in oxygen. So I went over to Lynn's fridge and I got, don't get mad at me, Lynn, but this is a giveaway Argent that is up for grabs. Anybody can have it. This was not in any of our breeding lines. Make sure that you only do this on throwaway animals. But what I've done is I went into this animal and I looked at, it has available points to use. And so what I've done is, and I'll bring up this Excel spreadsheet down here, I've created a stat calculator. So for, we need melee. So what I've done, we'll do M, and then for this Argent, right now its melee is 297, or sorry, 279.8. And then its oxygen, which is what I need, is currently at 742, so 742.5. And I am going to increase the stats. So for oxygen, we'll do oxygen first. So now we're at 742.5. We're going to increase it by 1. And now we're at 810. So for oxygen, we're going to do 810. Actually, we're going to move these over because that's how this calculator works. Copy these over, delete these. Oxygen is at 810 now. All right, so that is giving me, every time I increase its oxygen, it gives me 67.5 percentage. We'll go ahead and increase its melee. So the melee is 279.8. So we'll go ahead and increase it. All right, so now we are at... Oh, and you're not even seeing my screen right now. I'm sorry. Here, I'm actually on the side doing these, like increasing these. So I just increased melee, and now I have 286.7. So we're going to put that on the sheet. So that's going to be 286.7. Okay. So that gives me 6.9 points for melee. So what I've done is, if we look back at our animal that has all of these weird mutations, we definitely, what's affecting the percentage right now is we have 2 points into, or 2 mutations into oxygen and 1 mutation into melee. So what I've done here is I took the melee that we're seeing. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and get into its inventory so I can look at its percentages. So now I'm in the, I've got multiple screens running. So now I'm in the inventory. I can see the percentages, and I also have my sheet up. So what I've done is for melee, since we have 1 mutation, I basically just did 587 minus 14 and got that 573. So it has a base melee percentage is 573. For oxygen, and I'm gonna have to grab my phone because I'm okay. So we actually have 67.5 times 4 is the amount that we need to. I think it's like 270, but let me double check. 67.5 times 4. It is 270, yep. So what I've done is I took that 660 minus 270, and I got that 390. So that's what I have come up with. This is incorrect, actually. Oh, no, that's correct. So, with 390 as the base without mutations, if we include 2 points, so each point is going to be 67.5. 7.5. I'm doing some math on the side here. Times 2. So it increases by 135. So we'll take the 390 plus 135, and that gives us 525. And then you do 135 again, and that's going to give us that 660. So that's where we're at with this bird. We've got one mutation technically, or one effective mutation in melee, 2 effective mutations in oxygen, and then we have a ton of mutations that are just floating around that are fake. What I've done is I've taken all of its stats, or all of its points, and I have an algorithm down here, which is the sum of all of these points. Like if I take this and then this, you can actually go up to the top here. I don't know if you can see it from my screen. Oh, you can. Okay, and then this little function thing, and then you hit sum, and then that will put the total. So now I know that the moment that we crossed the threshold of that 242 is when we started seeing some muddling, which gives me a little bit of a direction. I only have this one animal, and I don't have this animal's parents. If I were the breeder, I would start chasing down the parents, and here's what I would have done if I were the breeder. So I'm going to go ahead and take that away so we can take a look. So if we look into this guy's ancestors, so we'll show ancestors, we're going to look for any of the animals that have around about that 242 to kind of like go, okay, where did this get messed up? So if we look down here, I literally have a 242 right here on the matrilineal side. And so, and guess what? That matrilineal side had one weight mutation. This bird doesn't have a weight mutation anywhere. So it's interesting that we might have phantom mutations from other birds that have different mutations. So that kind of gives, that definitely throws a wrench in the gears. I'm not going to be able to sit down and noodle out exactly where these 82 came from and where these 68 came from. All I really have at my disposal is to say, okay, we've got 3 real mutations and then 147 fake mutations. And I mean, you could sit down and try to count individual parents or ancestors out and just be like, okay, well, here's 1, 2, 3. If each one of these had 1 or 2 mutations, then I can take this 68 and like start dividing it. Like, okay, 2 came from here, maybe 2 came from here, and that would actually, it's like the grain of rice thing. In fact, I brought that up, that grain of rice on the chessboard, 1 equals 2, 2 equals 4, 4 equals 8, and 8 equals 16. So we've got a grain of rice situation happening here with this bird. So it's like, how far back does that grain of rice come from? I would start from that 240 or around that 242. So we've got 1 grain of rice, 2 grains of rice, 4 grains of rice going right here. And at some point in time, that became the 68. So if I were the breeder, I would go back to this Argent right down here, this 240, this Argentavis, and go look for it. Like, okay, do you have a weird mutation, ma'am? Same with this line. Like, I would go back here again, grains of rice, 1, 2, 4, or potentially further down, since we might actually have some. No, this is why it's really important for breeders to name their breeding line what they are. And then when they become personal dinosaurs, you can start naming them weird stuff. But like this is very helpful. We have 1 mutation here, and then there's 1 mutation here, and these are both weight mutations, and this bird did not receive a weight mutation. So it has somewhere in the line 2 phantom weight mutations or fake weight mutations that never got carried over. So, what we need to do now that we've kind of noodled everything out mathematically, and we have kind of a direction on where we're going to go with this now that we know the base stats, now that we know how much every level gives the animal, and where the actual mutations are. We can technically still use this as a breeding line if we wanted to. It's going to be a really messy breeding line, but if you really want to save this bird, you're like, wow, look at these colors. These are Cub Scout colors. And I mean, this bird has 51 base melee, which is wild. Same with that health. So what I've done is with that level 1 that I have right next to it, I bred these two together. And what that gave me is this baby right here. So I'm going to pop this baby out. I didn't get the exact Cub Scout colors, but if you look on the left, I did get that melee, which is pretty cool. I didn't get that health, which is kind of a bummer, but I do have that melee. And if we look at their ancestors, we can see that all of those mutations are now stacked over on the matrilineal side. So I can now breed this animal with a potential other mate that is hopefully not mutated. In fact, that's the direction I would have to go, is mate this with a non-mutated animal, and I will have the ability to stack more mutations and just keep tossing everything over. Actually, I would be tossing everything back on the patrilineal line, so that way this like hyper mutated muddled animal only has, or bloodline only has, all of the messy mutations over on the patrilineal line. That way I can put him with a bunch of females, and that increases their chances of, or this bloodline's chances of getting more mutations, or the mutations that I want. So that is how I would go about fixing this, is by breeding the muddled animal with a non-muddled animal, get a male, even I got a female on this one, so I've got an extra step now, but get a male, breed him with a bunch of non-mutated females, preferably probably those level 1s that have nothing. So that is how you fix hyper muddled mutation-capped animals. Personally, I would want to go back and chase down this line, and going by what we know of with those that level 42 or 242, chase down where that muddling started to happen, because there's a really good chance, if this was all coming from one breeder, there's a very good chance that they have some muddling happening between these two before, actually, I think that Ark now has, like, these are the super old ancestors now. These are the more recent ones. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that actually now makes sense why it says 82. So we've got seven breeds ago. That's when the muddling started happening. So I would chase down all of these parents, all of them. Same with this one, chase down all of those parents, and do the same thing. In fact, I might even like provide this stat calculator that I've created for people to use for the server, and just do the due diligence and figure out where your muddling is coming from by putting in the stats. Like, if this is a perfectly good calculator itself. Like, we can take this out and then this out, and then we can say that it's got like 46 points, and that equals, I don't know, for health, 4,000. You know, that's not true, but you can mix and match to try to figure it out, and all you have to put in is the points and the percentages. So, yeah, that is what I have. I'm definitely a spreadsheets user. Oh, and it was, not Arc Buddy. Well, now I'm totally blanking on that app, but there's an app out there that does a lot of this for you if you need it. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.